Let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at a completely mind-bending scientific narrative. What if I told you life doesn't actually need water or even sunlight to thrive? What if it needed something, well, vastly more explosive? We're heading to a rogue planet today to explore a scenario that challenges literally everything we think we know about biology, where the absolute building blocks of existence are forged in atomic fire.
So what if life didn't need a sun? To really get this, we've got to challenge our own carbon chauvinism. We're just so used to the idea that life is this incredibly fragile dance of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, all kept nice and warm by a gentle yellow sun. But what does a living, breathing ecosystem look like in the total absence of a star? The universe is way more creative than we give it credit for. What if biology played by an entirely different set of rules?
Just think about the contrast here. On one side, we have our delicate, sun-dependent existence. On the other, we have the extreme, heavy metal reality of a hypothetical rogue planet called Aethelgard. When you look at them side by side, you start to realize how a totally different set of physical laws could spark biology. Here on Earth, ionizing radiation absolutely wrecks our fragile DNA. But on Aethelgard, radiation is the spark of life itself. Instead of water, picture oceans of molten salt. Instead of DNA, a hyper-resilient crystalline lattice. It's a complete 180-degree inversion of our reality.
Section 1. A heavy metal world forged in a kilonova. To even wrap our heads around how a world this bizarre could exist, we have to rewind the clock about 5 billion years. Imagine the unimaginably violent collision of two neutron stars. This cataclysm literally forces atoms to swallow neutrons way faster than they can decay in something called the R process. In a fraction of a second, you've got temperatures in the billions of degrees, forging massive quantities of unstable heavy elements. We're talking gold, platinum, thorium, and, absolutely crucially here, uranium. Then, eons later, this radioactive dust slowly coalesces in the dark void around a wandering brown dwarf, eventually seeding the rogue planet Aethelgard.
Now, common sense says that without a sun, this dark world should just be a frozen, dead sphere of ice, right? Well, it isn't. The sheer volume of radioactive isotopes, things like thorium and uranium, decaying right there in its crust, essentially turns the entire planet into a colossal nuclear generator. All that internal decay heats oceans of molten fluoride salts to a truly terrifying baseline temperature of 700 degrees Celsius. Just try to picture that, a churning, liquid salt ocean, sitting under a crushing atmosphere of supercritical carbon dioxide, glowing with this eerie blue Cherenkov radiation. Section 2. Anatomy of the Radonite. Meet Oklos.
So deep down inside this glowing, superheated ocean, we meet a creature named Oklos. And what's absolutely fascinating here is that without any sunlight for photosynthesis, their completely alien biology is powered by a process known as radiosynthesis. Since there's no sun, the ambient radiation from all that decaying uranium actually acts as a catalyst. The alpha particles literally split the stable salts they live in, whipping up highly reactive free radicals that function exactly like ATP does in our own cells. They are literally powered by the exact same radiation that would instantly vaporize us.
And Okoslos's heavy metal anatomy? It's just staggering. Let's break this down. Instead of a fragile double helix, their genetic code is safely locked away in a radiation-hardened 3D crystalline lattice. For blood, they've got a peristaltic magnetic pump circulating liquid bismuth and lead, which doubles as a super-efficient coolant and transport medium. To survive the corrosive ocean, they're sporting a depleted uranium-osmium alloy exoskeleton. Oh, and it gets better? They actually use solid-state physics for a nervous system. We're talking superconducting nanowires that let them process thoughts at the speed of electrons. And because their whole metabolism runs on alpha decay, they breathe out helium and radioactive radon gas. Wild, right?
Section 3. The Radioactive Ecosystem. Survival of the Heaviest.
Of course, Oklos isn't alone down there in this ruthless subterranean ecosystem. Now, because visible light absolutely cannot penetrate Aethelgard's hyperdense atmosphere, regular eyes would be completely useless. So Oklos actually perceives the world through radiation. They navigate their surroundings by pulsing fast neutrons from a specialized organ to map out the physical topology of the abyssal trenches. By sensing exactly how those neutrons scatter and bounce back, Oklos can see the environment in crisp three-dimensional detail. It's very much like how a dolphin uses echolocation, but, with subatomic particles instead of sound waves.
This whole setup brilliantly illustrates the predator-prey dynamic on Aethelgard, where the local ecology maps perfectly to nuclear physics.
For instance, you've got these towering breeder pillars that pull thorium straight from the mantle, acting as stationary heat sources. But lurking among them are flux stalkers. These are terrifying apex predators that can actually trigger localized prompt critical nuclear bursts inside their own bodies to irradiate and paralyze their prey. How does Oklos and the Radonai herd survive that? Well, they defend themselves collectively. The herd instantly synchronizes to raise specialized dorsal plates made of cadmium and gadolinium, which are elements that naturally absorb neutrons. They are literally deploying biological radiation shields to shut down the predator's attack.
Section 4. The fission bloom, a runaway reaction.
Now, believe it or not, the ultimate threat to the Radonai actually isn't predators at all. It's the biological buildup of stable, inert lead inside their own bodies. As their internal uranium slowly decays, it turns into lead, just dead weight, that eventually brings a cold, sluggish death. So they have to go on desperate migrations to find high-energy, unstable isotopes like uranium-235 to recharge. On one such migration, the herd stumbles upon an absolute chemical paradise, a massive, exposed vein of highly enriched U-235. It's a feast. But as they eagerly smash the rocks to feed, they make a catastrophic mistake. Tectonic activity had caused liquid hydrocarbon tar to seep down onto the uranium vein. Now, to us humans, hydrocarbons are just fuel, but to uranium-based life, hydrogen-rich tar acts as a neutron moderator. It slows down the fast neutrons, turning them into thermal neutrons, which makes them exponentially more likely to split nearby uranium atoms. Without even realizing it, they are sparking a runaway nuclear chain reaction.
Almost instantly, the ambient temperature on the plateau absolutely skyrockets. The bedrock itself begins to glow with blinding white heat, and temperatures shoot up to a staggering 1,500 degrees Celsius. The tar starts boiling, and this furious blue corona of Cherenkov radiation erupts all around them. The herd is literally seconds away from a prompt critical power explosion, basically a localized atomic explosion that will completely vaporize every single one of them.
Section 5. The Promethean Spark, Taming the Atom. The oldest member of the herd, Zir, is trapped right at the melting epicenter, forcing Oklos to make an impossible choice. Overcoming every deeply ingrained evolutionary instinct telling them to run for their lives, Oklos uses their powerful mandibles to literally tear off their own defensive armor, those massive neutron-absorbing dorsal slabs of cadmium and gadolinium. They then plunge those detached plates deep into the boiling, glowing mass of uranium and tar. Because cadmium eagerly swallows up thermal neutrons, the runaway chain reaction breaks almost instantly and the whole system stabilizes. The massive heat dissipates and the explosion is completely averted. In that moment, Oklos essentially functioned as living, biological control rods.
Now, the truly crucial takeaway here is that this wasn't just some desperate act of survival. This single, calculating act of physically manipulating atomic forces transitioned the Radonai from mere animals into something entirely new. Before this exact moment, they just reacted to their environment. But by leaving those cadmium plates inside the reactor, they realized they could actually control the atomic fire. They could create a permanent, stable hearth of gentle, life-sustaining heat. By doing this, Oklos became the very first engineer of a true technological civilization.
Section 6. A Cosmic Perspective, Looking Back at Earth.
Let's fast forward a few thousand millennia. The descendants of Oklos have gone on to build vast, geometric cities of crystalline logic, alongside colossal breeder reactors that literally span continents. And when they finally point their sweeping gamma-ray and neutrino sensors out toward the stars and manage to detect the incredibly faint electromagnetic whispers of carbon-based civilizations, that's us, living on a watery little rock orbiting a yellow star. They are absolutely fascinated. To these massive uranium-boned philosophers, our delicate water-soaked existence, which is powered merely by the oxidation of sugars, seems totally impossible. To them, we are fragile and fleeting. But at the same time, despite being made of completely different elemental building blocks, their vast minds recognize a profound universal truth. Whether you are splitting carbon bonds under a warm sun or splitting uranium nuclei in the pitch dark, the fundamental drive is exactly the same: to survive and to build a light of your own.
Please like and subscribe.